The 1960s and 70s, when fast food was cooked with lard and there wasn't all these extra additives. I mean, fast food was literally just fast, right? It wasn't necessarily full of the stuff that it's full of today. Now, forget about all the potential weird things that could be in fast food. I want to focus on the sheer basics, the basics of how many calories are in fast food today versus years ago. Because even that has changed, and it's not just serving size. There's literally more calories in a small piece of food now than there was in that same size piece of food years ago. So let's go ahead and break it down. After today's video, I put a link down below for ARMRA colostrum. That's a 15% off discount link. Colostrum over the last year has kind of been taking the world by storm again. Colostrum's been around for a long time as a supplement for gut health, for recovery, for immunomodulation. It's definitely a very interesting thing, but the reason that it never got the notoriety that it truly deserved is because usually when you make colostrum into a supplement, you're heating it up so much that you're pretty much nullifying it anyway. ARMRA uses a really unique cold biopotent technology that preserves the different bioactive compounds that are in it, because that's what makes colostrum so interesting. It's not the fact that it's what a calf consumes. I mean, sure, that's great, but it's the fact that it has so much in the way of just bioactive compounds that can potentially help us in so many different ways. But if you're heating that and destroying it, it really is pretty much a literal waste of money. So ARMRA is the first company to really utilize and leverage this patented technology. So it's putting colostrum back on the map again, and people are starting to talk about it again, and it's all because of ARMRA. So this link down below in the top line of the description underneath this video, try armra.com/Thomas. That gets you 15% off. They have two different things too. They have their regular colostrum, and then they have a recovery colostrum that's really good if you're focused more on muscle soreness, recovering between workouts. This is where it legitimately is a game changer for me. I was using one version and then I switched to the recovery, and it was for me as an athlete, it made all the difference. So that link down below underneath this video. According to the study published in the Nutrition Journal, looking at 5,468 different fast food items from 2012 to 2016, the calories have increased significantly. Check this out. There's a 5% increase in the overall mean serving size, right? So the actual size had increased. But more importantly, there was a 6% increase in the energy density of these fast food items in that 4 to 5 year period of time. And there was a 14% increase in total energy/calories per serving. So what that means is we have a combination of larger servings, but more importantly, more caloric density. How has fast food changed in just that 4 or 5 year period of time? Well, we've really ramped up industrialized seed oils in the last decade. They are easy to preserve, they're cheap, they can reuse them. It makes life easier. It's a lot cheaper than lard, right? Now, this has obviously been going on longer than just 2012 to 2016. So there's a lot of things that have changed. But you also have to see how this parallels with the processed food industry in the first place. We've made leaps and bounds in the world of food adulteration and how we process food over the last couple of decades. Back in the 1970s, fast food looked entirely different. If you look at even high fructose corn syrup, which I did a separate video on this, high fructose corn syrup from 1970 to 1990 increased over 1,000% in terms of how much consumption Americans had. That was an 11-fold increase in just that 20-year span. So in the 1970s, you maybe didn't have a lot of high fructose corn syrup in your Coca-Cola. It might have literally just been caramel coloring, sugar, carbonated water, and whatever vanilla flavoring or whatever is in it, right? It could have been that simple. And have you ever looked at a can of Coke in the United States compared to a can of Coke in Europe or another country? The ingredient profile is totally different. They don't even have the same things. Because in the United States, we do focus more on shelf life. We focus more on the capitalism and being able to grow this food product and reach the masses and have it stay on the shelf for a long amount of time so it saves money. we're not really thinking about the health, right? Now, I don't want to get lost in the weeds of the chemicals and the ingredients, because the one thing that we can all agree on, with the exception of maybe a few, is that calories matter. Now, you may not say that calories are king. You may not think that calories are everything and that if you just reduce calories, you're going to lose weight. And I can understand why you wouldn't think that, right? There's a lot of pieces there. But none of us can deny that it's a pretty good barometer for how much we're eating and a pretty good barometer for if we're going to gain or lose weight, right? It's pretty important there. So when we look at the fact that fast food is more calorically dense now, combined with the fact that people are eating more of it, and then you combine that with the fact that we are significantly more sedentary, do the math. Literature out of the Pew Research Center has suggested that since 1970, our average calorie intake has increased 23%. So it's gone from about 1,900 calories per day up to 2,300-ish calories to 2,400 calories today. So, wow, we definitely have an issue there. But we need to unpack why we're eating more. Is it just because fast food is serving us more energy-dense, bigger servings? I mean, if our systems were working properly, wouldn't we be able to self-govern that? Wouldn't we be able to say, oh, I've had enough food? If our systems actually worked appropriately. And that's exactly why just counting calories can be problematic, right? Because if we count calories, we assume that we're also kind of trusting our instincts. And if we were to just say, I am going to eat 2,500 calories, and I'm going to stop there, but you're starving at the end of it, you might be able to do it to lose weight, but are you really going to be sustainable? Long term, you're going to eat until you're full. Now, if you look at the literature that looks at polygenic obesity and monogenic obesity, these obesity genes have been in us for a long time. We've had issues with obesity genes probably 100 years ago. But the rates of obesity have increased so much now because now those gene mutations have a chance to have an environment that allows them to really rear their ugly heads, right? And the way that these obesity genes work is that these mutations, is they alter the signaling. They alter so that we don't get the leptin signal properly, so we continue to eat. So when we have hyperpalatable food and we have food that is placed in front of us that is already more calorically dense, we're gonna eat it. We are not a lot different than mice that are given a bunch of food in a lab setting and to see if they'll eat more. They will eat more, right? And we will eat more. So how can we control this? What do we actually do? Changing our environment is the literal best thing that you can do. Because when you look at the studies with identical twins, when they put one twin into an environment that is unhealthy and has a lot of food and processed food, and another twin into another environment, the same obesity gene mutations, the one that's in the healthy environment does not get obese, the one that's in the unhealthy environment does. So the single biggest lever that we can pull is changing our environment. Changing how much we eat by reducing the food that is around us and our propensity to dive into it. Increasing the ability for us to walk. Living in an area where we want to move around. I'm not saying you need to up and move. Not everyone can do that, right? Socioeconomic factors play a part too. What are the budget ways that you can control your environment? Protein. Meat sticks or beef jerky, protein powders, yogurts, cottage cheeses. You can get cottage cheese at the dollar store, and there's a lot of protein in it. These are the kinds of things in a budget-friendly way where you can still control this. And I don't want to get into a socioeconomic discussion too much, but I wanted to make a point of discussing it a little bit. Because at the end of the day, people are choosing fast food because it's cheap, it's easy, and it's convenient. And it generally tastes pretty good too. So you just have to change the environment so that you are in control of the caloric density, since we know that things are going in the wrong direction. As always, keep it locked in here on my channel. See you tomorrow.